Hey, what is up, lovelies? It's Lynn the Gacha Goblin, and I found this video on my suggested videos. It's the issue with the Love and Deepspace community by Manny Talks a Lot. Now, this is a very new account, and I think this is their first video on their account as well. However, it seems like from the comments they've put up a few interesting discussion points. So let's check out what this individual's opinions are about the Love and Deepspace community. Alright.
Hi, my name is Manny and this is my first video. First, a disclaimer. I am not attacking the character at all. I love Silas. I am not attacking the company either. I am not attacking the players that love this character either. This video is to point out a few observations I've made about the community and how I find a few things problematic. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, however. You can have yours and I can have mine and we can continue living on Earth with our own opinions.
My teacher used to say, back in high school, that opinions are like buttholes. Everybody has one, but you don't necessarily want to see each other's butthole. Sorry, that just reminded me of that.
On the same point, however, this video is to critique some obvious issues with the fandom that I've seen firsthand. Do not attack anyone, please. This video is not at all attacking the members of the LGBTQ community. I will not tolerate this accusation as I am a huge supporter. Let's get started. I joined the game during Silas's release and was quick to join the Discord server as I really sucked at the game's battle aspect and didn't understand a lot since it was only my second Otome game. Big mistake. I realized how secretly toxic a portion of the community was, yet it was always hidden behind certain things, disguising their toxic acts as intolerance to misinformation or working around certain aspects to not obviously seem homophobic or racist. Examples of this can be seen through the two commonly used statements. It is a Chinese game, or Chinese players being a priority is biased.
I will say that joining the Discord, I've heard, is actually a huge mistake because the community there is incredibly toxic. I haven't experienced this firsthand because I just want to keep that kind of toxicity out of my life. So I choose peace and not hate, and I will not join the Discord for Love and Deepspace. Because I also heard that there's like a lack of moderation or something like that, something along those lines, that there is no fairness in the Discord itself. So I would actually recommend hanging out on the Reddit. The Reddit is pretty cool. There are two. There's the official one and there's the unofficial one. There are a few unofficial ones, but the one that I like is the Love and Deepspace _. It's a very nice community there, very open-minded. So definitely check them out. As for Twitter, so far, pretty okay. I haven't experienced any craziness on Twitter in terms of the Love and Deepspace community, so I would just recommend to stay away from the Discord itself.
Now, the pendulum swings both ways, unfortunately. You have both of these situations at hand. For this video, I'm going to create a few main points so that I can expand in an organized manner. The anger of Western folk towards Asian folk. This is something I've been meaning to expand on as an Asian myself. Ever since Silas's release, the entrance of Western folk into the fandom has been inevitable, as the love interest seems to be targeted specifically towards Western trends on TikTok, namely manhandlers, bike riders, white-haired men, and tall, muscular men. I obviously don't mind this. I mean, who would actually mind any of
Manhandlers? What? Is that a thing? What's a manhandler? Oh, sorry. That's really funny. Although I do agree, like, Silas is made for a different type of individual, not the same vanilla-esque, I would say, love interest that we originally started with. So they're definitely trying to bring in a different kind of player into Love and Deepspace and you know, like, expand on that. So I see where this is coming from.
of that, to be honest. Anyway, however, I've noticed how mostly Western folks seem to be entitled towards representations of themselves, almost forgetting that the game was never really made for them. And if you remind them of this, or they are reminded of this themselves, they quickly turn to hating on Chinese folk or Asian folk being a priority to the game developers. Example 1 would be the Caleb as a love interest discussion.
Before we jump into that, the whole Western people not liking Chinese folk because the game wasn't meant for them, I can see where that point has come from, has like sprouted from, because there is a lot of bias when it comes to gacha games, since gacha games are mainly made in China, that the community there is more open towards gacha, and therefore there's a bigger player base for it. However, I don't know if the game was necessarily intentionally made just for the Chinese players, because the game is run by Infold, and Infold was a company, like a sub-company created by Paper Games as a means to expand globally. And just that fact tells me that their intention was never to really keep it within China itself, because if they were meant to keep it in China, they wouldn't have made Infold. So that is my thinking on this. I don't know if that is substantial enough for that kind of argument. Let me know down in the comments down below. I understand though that because it is a Chinese company that was that made this game in China, that the player base would be majority Chinese. However, if the fates had allowed that the Chinese player base wasn't as big, and maybe it was as big as the global fan base, I don't think that the statement is still valid. The statement that it's Chinese based, like Chinese bias, so I hate all Chinese people kind of thing. I don't know, or you know what I'm saying? Like, there is a strange way of thinking there that it may or may not be true. However, my inclination is saying that the game was not necessarily made for just the Chinese community. That is just my thoughts on it. Again, I could be wrong, and that is fine. However, let me know down below in the comments. Alright, let's continue on with this discussion about Caleb.
Caleb is extremely popular in China and has been predicted to return, as he is a fan favorite other than Raphael. However, the Westerners seem to despise Caleb to disgusting lengths, claiming that the character and MC being potential lovers must mean Chinese folk are into incest themes. This is where culture kicks in. In Asia, the joint family system exists due to the economic state of many countries. So as to counter the financial issues families may face, people tend to live under one roof with other families. This is very common. They are still considered neighbors, but according to Westerners, they use the fact that MC and Caleb were raised together, basically neighbors, hence why they are brother and sister. The term Gacha is used for older male figures out of respect in China, and it translates to brother. It doesn't actually mean that the person you referred to with this term is actually your brother. It's similar to how Koreans use the term hyung, or South Asians use the term bai for older male figures.
I understand where the misconception comes from on the Westerner side, because I know for a fact that there is no like one-to-one translation for the terms that this person is pointing out. Like, the term hyung is for a younger male referring to an older male. However, if you're talking about a younger female talking to an older guy, you can use the term oppa. And oppa can be used for biological brother, like blood brother, but it can also be used for somebody who is just an older male that you're close to. It doesn't mean that they're blood related or in any way related by familial ties. There are many terms like that. So the individual pointed out the Chinese way of saying it. It was a goga. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. So there's that one. There's oppa in Korean. There's oni-chan in Japanese. I think that's what it is in Japanese. I could be wrong. There's kuya in Filipino. There's the bai in Hindi. So there are many ways of referring to an older male as a female towards an older male who you find close, who you're close to as friends or close to as actually lovers. That's why you see in Korean dramas, you have like the female, sometimes they call their boyfriends oppa. It could mean brother, it could mean my older guy that I'm close with, you know what I mean? So there is a mistranslation and a misrepresentation in that way because there is no one-to-one translation in English. So when people in America or any Western country hears that the MC grows up with this individual, this guy who's a little bit older than her, quote unquote adopted by the grandma. I don't know if that's actual like legal adoption or if they just took him in and took care of him. I don't know. Not that I don't know. I know for a fact that people will assume that Caleb is her stepbrother, and therefore stepbrothers here, it's like taboo for you to have a crush on them, to be with them or whatnot. But if you think about it in terms of like the oppa version of Korean dramas and whatnot, that's completely fine. Like there's no translation, there's no understanding of that difference in the cultures. So there's just like there's a necessary conversation there that needs to be said that isn't being pointed out, which is very strange. There's just more respect given to older individuals in Asian cultures. In Asian cultures, there's always like a word for somebody who is older than you, whether that's an older brother, an older sister, somebody that you're just close to. Like I know, what's that called? There is terms in Korean for you to call an older sister but who's not blood related, and you call them unni, and it, like I said, it's just a cultural differences, because in America you just call people by their names. There is no classification there is no age separation, there is nothing like that. So there is a lot of room there for misinterpretation and misrepresentation. So there should be no hate, there should just be open conversation about these cultural differences, so that way people will understand.
Now, it's very valid to dislike Caleb as a love interest, but the mental gymnastics I've seen people do, going as far as to claim that Chinese people are just walking piggy banks and claiming that they're disgusting for liking a character, is mind-boggling. The statement, it being a Chinese game, is not an excuse, has been used in a context to make racist conversations seem like they're of the best interest of players.
Yeah, so using that is a very racist point to make against Caleb, which is very strange. I 100% agree with Manny here.
That will like a little more diversity. Older players hate towards newer players, or Asian folks hate towards Western folk.
Before we jump into that, there is a difference between older players hate towards newer players and Asian players hate towards American players, or not even American, just Western in general. So let's start off with the older players hate towards newer players, because I don't feel like you can really group these two together, because even if I'm a Westerner and I'm an OG player of Love and Deepspace, that would still apply to me even though I'm not Asian, you know what I'm saying? So older players have like a understanding of what the game's intention was. So like an example right now is the whole discussion about whether or not spice is mandatory in every limited card that comes out. Because you have newer players who just joined when Silas was introduced to the game, and they're expecting now that Silas will always be spicy. So when Wander and Wonder came out and there was basically no spice in there, they were kind of put off by that, and some people were hating on the fact that why is there no spice here? When older players know that the point of this game is to learn about these characters, to grow with these characters and understand that we're learning about the love story between the MC and the love interests, not just that there's spice in the game. And older players will also know that we didn't get any spice until Intertwined Fates, I think is what the banner is called, when we first got our kiss with the love interests. That was like the first real quote-unquote intimacy that we had. I guess the real first spice was when we experienced Silas, but again, it's a different way of introducing a character, and because it's a different way of introducing the character, and so many people who are not familiar with this game joined, there was a misunderstanding and a misconception of what the game is. So that is just my take on older players towards newer players. As for Asian players hating towards Western players, that is also another conversation there. It can stem from that same older players hate towards newer players. However, there is a conversation also about Western players wanting certain things that Asian players will not enjoy, will not like. So it can also come from like the whole spice aspect. But it can also come towards like the cultural aspects as well, like with the Caleb thing that we were discussing earlier. Having that hate towards Caleb, Asian players will not like Western players for dissing the game because of that, when it's just really a misunderstanding between cultural differences there that is very poorly explained to a massive amount of people, because unfortunately there is a large portion of this community that is too young to understand, too young to listen to reason, you know what I'm saying? So that is just my take on it, but let's see what what Manny is saying about this topic.
Like I mentioned previously, my point swings both ways because no side is a saint. Older players or Asian players seem to always attack newer or Western players, mainly if found out to have criticism for the game. Small non-issues are turned into huge issues, mostly revolving around the BL, or when MC may not be gendered as a woman in fan works. Now, this isn't something that took part in the Discord server. Instead, it was something that a good friend of mine reminded me of. Most players seem to act like it's their very important duty to attack players that might involve LGBTQ themes into their fan works. For example, fanfictions that involve changing the gender of the main character. Now, keep in mind that this is a fan work and fair use, but ever since the no BL rule came out, keyboard warriors attack anyone that may hint towards an MC that is not a woman. No, I mean sometimes they may write MC as non-binary, not only a man, in their fanfictions, and their entire comment section would be filled with nothing but hate, and all the haters are hiding behind the no BL rule.
I understand why this person brought up this topic, because it is a very taboo thing, unfortunately, in the community to discuss the MC being a different gender or of a different sexual orientation. And it's also taboo to put the love interests with each other. And as somebody who loves like BL, okay, I love boy love. I personally can't see the love interests together. Like, they're so well written into loving the MC, but for me, for my opinion, okay, I think that it's perfectly okay to have the main character be whatever sexual orientation that you want them to be in your fan fictions. All right, my advice is just don't put it on the official you know, platforms, Reddit, Twitter, yada yada. Don't put it there, because you will get hate, unfortunately, by those who are very strongly against the LGBTQ plus community. It's a sad way to see it, and it's a very small matter, honestly, because if you just let them, you know, go about their business, it's not like people are gonna attack you for it. And it's not like you can change the character in game. Like, this game, for some reason, okay, it's so strange. It is an Otome game. Okay, everybody knows that it's an Otome game. However, on the Google Play Store or wherever store it's put up, it's a dating simulator, which then brings into the question, is it really an Otome game? And then therefore brings in the question of, if it's not really an Otome game, which Otome in Japanese means mating games made for women, then why can't you write non-gender specific MCs into the story? You know what I'm saying? So if Infold themselves wanted to really clear this up, they would write on the store itself that this is an Otome game, that this is very clearly made for a specific set of people. But they don't do that, because they're milking money out of people who want to play this game regardless of their own sexual orientation, or, you know, individual, whatever have you be, or whatever. I don't know what the proper terminology is. I'm so sorry. I am all for the LGBTQ plus community. Again, I've said earlier, I am a massive BL fan. But yeah, like, it's a strange conversation to have, especially since there are so many blurred lines on where you get the app, as opposed to the message that the company is saying about their official platforms. My guess, like my only hypothesis, is that I've read somewhere, I could be wrong about this, but I've read somewhere that in China it is illegal to have BL content put out, especially since this game is not for kids, but for the younger generation. So they don't want to, like, bring that out for the younger generation. Unfortunately, it is, I suppose, homophobic in that way. So I'm guessing that that's the reason why the company itself doesn't want to get into trouble if there is LGBTQ plus things on their official platforms, that the community could report the company themselves to the government, which has happened in many different games. So it's not a crazy thing to think about. So I think that might be the reason why they don't want BL things on their official platforms. However, the community, the LADS community themselves, has taken it to a whole different level, especially if people are releasing, like, their fan fictions or their works of art on their own platforms. For people to go out of their way and hate on those is very sad, just because it is not the quote-unquote standard of the game. But that is my opinion on the topic. Again, let's just continue on with the video.
Hate towards love interest stands to defend their love interests. Now, I don't have a script for this, so I just wanted to go on a whim over here. This mostly I've taken into observation with Silas stands ever since they came into the fandom. So Silas stands seem to always excuse this man's actions and crimes while painting other love interests and attacking other love interest stands to try and defend their favorite love interest. For example, we all know that in the main story, spoilers ahead if you do not know this, that Silas did kidnap MC. He did kill a man in front of MC, and then he did force MC to shoot him in the heart, tricking her into thinking that she might have killed him, all for shits and giggles. Now, obviously, this is something that no one can actually defend, but the way Silas stands mostly counter this is by painting other love interests in negative light by spreading misinformation. For example, there was this conversation I came across a few days ago where somebody claimed that Zayn fat-shamed the MC. Now, this is a very serious issue. Obviously, if he did fat-shame the MC, this is a very serious issue and that should have been taken into consideration because not everybody is small and petite like the MC. So, obviously, I went ahead, tried to do my research, tried to look for that very specific line where he might have called MC overweight or something. I didn't find anything at the time. Then I questioned the user that claimed this on why she said this. Their claim came from apparently that Zayn told the MC to cut back on sugars. Now, this is when, obviously it clicked. In the Bond memory, nostalgic sweetness, you realize that Zayn went to the dentist because he ate too many sugars and got a cavity. And MC, just to tease him, ate twice as many sugars and also got a cavity. And we know this because the connected text message that you get after you unlock this this bond, mentions that MC did get a toothache just like Zayn. This is when I realized that most of the things that some people were saying to defend Silas, or in fact erase the fact that Silas is a criminal, they're mostly lies. They're mostly misinformation so that other people are distracted and oh my god, Silas comparatively is not as bad as the other love interests, which seems wrong. I know this is a game and whatever, but wrong is wrong no matter where you are spreading misinformation. The jumps that people do just to defend this character, painting his red flags as green flags when they're still obviously very red underneath that green color, is very odd to me because this is a game. Every love interest does have his fault. I mean, we can see it with all of them. But it's the Silas stands that seem to stick out to me mostly when defending their own favorite love interests because they're slandering other love interests, and if somebody does not agree with their opinion, they go ahead and attack anybody that disagrees. But
I agree. Because I agree with this individual because first of all, I don't believe that people, especially players, should hate other love interests just because that they're biased. We saw this with the whole hate against Xavier. I covered it on my channel. There are people who hate Xavier because he was getting more popularity and they tried to cancel him. People were hating on Silas so much that they tried to cancel Silas's billboard that went out. Captain Cabinets covered that. And it's just strange to me to see the community that is supposed to be, together playing this game and enjoying it together, have formed subgroups into hating the different love interests and trying to lie about the different love interests as well. So the whole point of Zayn's discussion here was basically he's a doctor, okay? He doesn't want you to be eating so many sweets, or he doesn't want the MC to be eating so many sweets. It's not a weight thing. I don't think he mentions weight at all. He just says that it's bad for your health, which it is true. If you eat too many sweets, it is bad for your health. One of the causes is weight gain, but that is not the major that's not the major point that eating too mmany sweets causes. It causes diabetes, it causes glaucoma. It is very bad for you to eat an excessive amount of sweets. And that is the point that a doctor would make to anybody that they care about. To see the conclusions that some people make I guess Silas stands, not all of them, of course, but to see them make those kinds of accusations against the different love interests is really ridiculous. Yes, it is true that Silas is painted as this feared individual who murders people. Like, he is a mass murderer, okay? If you read his anecdote, you know that he is a mass murderer. He is a very, very black character that has some gray, okay? I'm not saying that he has a lot of white in him. He shows a lot of affection towards the MC, yes. But because he's such a morally black, morally dark gray character, he makes he's more interesting, okay? I love him for who he is. Yeah, I know he's a killer, but I like him. But I'm not gonna hate the other love interests just because I like Silas. I'm a Silas and Zane girly myself, so I don't know. It's a dumb conversation to have. Even a dumber conversation to hate different love interests in the same game. All right. Like, they're never gonna hate each other in the game, because I highly doubt that Infold is going to let them meet at all, honestly. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
By claiming that they're homophobic or they're racist, throwing similar insulting words around at them. Honestly, hating a love interest is totally okay, but the line where it crosses when it's not okay anymore is when you start attacking other people that may like a certain thing just because they like it and they don't like something that you like. I hope this makes sense, because once again, I don't have a script for this. And I don't have a script for the next part either, so please bear with me.
No, I agree. I completely agree. I understand what you're trying to say. Like, it's okay not to like one of the love interests. It's fine. Just don't try shoving those opinions down other players' throats and also attacking other players who like that love interest that you don't like. I completely understand, and I completely agree with that point.
My last point expands on the hate for main character that I've noticed, to a point that it seems almost like misogyny. Hating on the fact that main character exists, hating on the fact that main character has a couple of questionable choices, hating on the fact that main character isn't really your self-insert. I can understand that some people mistake the facial customization toggle and use it as a self-insert aspect, but we all need to be reminded that this isn't a self-insert game. The main character is making certain choices. The main character has her own ending, and the main character has a very specific way of doing things. We are not going to create technology to tweak the choices that main character makes based off of the player's personality, because I don't know if anybody else has realized this, but that technology is creepy in any way.
This is the part where I don't understand where you're coming from. I understand that there are people who take it too far, saying that the MC is, pointless to have in the story. However, I also have seen in the community that a lot of people like the MC, because there are a lot of people who wish that she was voiced more in the story, and because they enjoy listening to her speak and listening to the banter that she has with the love interest. However, I also understand where the opposing side is coming from, that they don't feel like she is an accurate representation of themselves, because I agree, the MC is not me. The MC has made different different choices that I would have never have made, and she also has different reactions to things that I wouldn't have made either. So in my opinion, she's also very different in different story paths. So if you follow like Zane's story path, the MC is different there, the way she acts is different there, as opposed to how she acts in a different love interest path, like maybe Raphael. I've always said that the MC is a little bit more, I guess ditzy is the right word. She's a little bit more airheaded when she's with Zayn, whereas she's more assertive and dominating in when she's in the story with Raphael. So I understand that there are people who hate the MC, but I also understand that there are people who love the MC. I am right down the middle, pretty much, about that. I enjoy having her in the game. She is very pretty. I know that there are some people who don't even like seeing like her hands or something like moving in the kindled moments or whatever, because they feel like it's a little weird. But the game, you're right, like the game was never meant to be a self-insert game, because if it was a self-insert game, we would have multiple choices in every path, in every conversation that we have. And if you think about that, it would make the development of this game incredibly difficult, because you have 4 love interests right now. Each of those love interests have how many conversations with the MC, and then if you choose different paths, if you choose different conversation choices, which actually would matter, then you would have different endings with each of the love interests. It's almost like playing Mystic Messenger, if you're familiar with that, where your choices do matter. But even in that game too, you get more of the self-insert feeling because your choices matter. However, in this game, you don't have that. The MC has her own personality. So it was never meant to be a self-insert. There is a nice addition of, customization in the appearance of the MC, but it was never meant to be a self-insert. But when it comes to that technology that you were talking about, like forcing the yourself into the game, I'm not really sure what you're referring to. So I will leave that out of the conversation here, because I don't understand what that is. But that is my point. Like, if they wanted this game to be a self-insert game, we would have choices that mattered in conversations with each of the love interests, which is too taxing for the company to make. They're already making high definition kindled moments and interactions with all of these love interests. It would be incredibly difficult to add more choices that mattered and more paths that mattered to the storyline. So that is my personal opinion about it. I don't know if people will agree with me down below in the comments, but we'll see.
And it is not a logical solution for not being able to relate to the main character. Another way people hate on the main character is by saying that she mistreats or abuses. Yes, the word abuse has been used. She abuses the main love interests, specifically in the context of Silas once again, saying how she should be treating him nicely and how she should have just jumped into his arms and started kissing him right then and there. I fear everybody forgets, or not everybody, but specific people forget that this man kidnapped her. This man killed a man in front of her, and then this man tricked her into thinking that she killed a man. I really do not think that it is fair to hate on the main character for not being in love with somebody who is obviously a criminal in her point of view.
Also, when they first met, the MC was under the impression that Silas murdered her family. She immediately hated the man before even knowing who he was, because of her losing Caleb and her grandma in an explosion. Like, how do you expect her to love somebody who she thought murdered her family? And it was family that she loved, okay? It wasn't like he rescued her from an abusive family relationship or something like that, like abusive parents or whatever. She loved her grandma and Caleb, and she thought that Silas killed them. And then there are people in this community, you're telling me that they wanted MC to immediately love Silas? That is so dumb. I'm so sorry, but look, I understand from like a dark romance, okay, point of view, and this is another topic that people hate to talk about, how Silas is compared to dark romance. He is a morally dark gray character, okay? And for him to be lovable to the MC, many things have to happen, many walls have to be broken down, many details about his business need to be clarified, and his like learning about him will take a long time for us to really see the MC fall in love with him. So it's naive to assume that the MC can immediately fall in love with Silas. We're seeing it slowly happen, especially now in Wander and Wonder, but it is going to take a while, people. It is going to take a while before these two fully trust each other and fully love each other.
And to counter this argument, some people use the excuse that MC is too boy-focused. It's also another way to hate on MC, by the way, but I think that that is a very stupid thing to say because this is a romance game, and it is also highly incorrect because we all know that the main storyline only explores the MC's personal goals, and the MC is only ever interested in the boys when they are of some use to her in the main storyline when it comes to her personal goals. At this point, the hate for MC seems almost forced, and if it is natural, then it seems like it's misogynistic, hating on the fact that the main character has her own choices and has her own personality, and the fact that main character doesn't align with a few people's own personalities. And that concludes my video essay. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't really have a conclusion point, just to say that these were some of my observations that I made in the fandom. I can always understand that fandoms are clearly toxic, but I find this case specifically very interesting because the fandom doesn't initially come off as toxic unless you are somehow dragged into those conversations where you realize that yes, it is toxic. And in my opinion, toxic is when you start hating on a certain opinion that you may not agree with, or you attack a person for not sharing the same opinion as yours. Because once again, it's not the end of the world if your opinion doesn't align with anybody else's. Everybody is entitled to their own way of thinking, and you shouldn't hate on anybody just because your opinions do not align with other people's opinions. And yeah, that concludes my essay. If you guys have any video suggestions or ways I can improve, or you guys have something to add to this, I would love to hear it in the comment section, because although you're not entitled to, but yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching.
That was a very
Quaker.
Excuse me, we're going back. Alright.
I am not attacking the
Hello.
character at all.
Sorry, my mouse is acting up sometimes. But that was a great video, honestly. I agreed with all of your points there. There could have been like some clarification on the technology that you were referring to. But overall, fantastic video. I agreed with your points, and I think that you explained yourself pretty well, especially for your first video. That was really good. I don't think I'm qualified to give you any advice. So I won't be giving you any advice. But yeah, it's crazy to see how toxic that this community can be. I was also shocked when I joined the community as well and started being more involved in like the Reddit and other places. There is definitely a very loud, they could be a very small part of the community, but they're very loud when it comes to hating on specific things. I would just recommend to stay away from it as much as possible. Don't get yourself involved because it's just a headache. And that goes for like everybody who's listening and watching this video. Unnecessary hate towards love interests, unnecessary hate towards the MC is pointless. It is never going to go anywhere except foster more hate within the community, which is not nice, not good, because this community is supposed to be a safe space for people who enjoy this game to talk to one another, fan over the game, and also learn from one another about different tips and tricks about how to play Love in Deepspace. That is my opinion of the overall situation, and yeah, it was a wonderful video, and I hope that you post more, because we need more content creators in the space that cover Love in Deepspace. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching my video. Please go check out Manny Talks a Lot. I'm pretty sure she would appreciate more opinions down in her comments about the whole situation. But thank you all so much for watching. If you want to join the Goblin family, hit that subscribe button down below. And I update about Love in Deepspace pretty regularly and cover other gacha games as well. I am Lynn, the Gacha Goblin, and I will see you lovelies in the next video. Bye now!